Oh, goody, goody, here it comes.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show.
You are interested in the unknown, the mysterious, the unexplainable. That is why you are here.
Oh, my God, don't stop now!
With your hosts, Brian, John, and Elaine.
Welcome to the Cinema Psycho Show, the madhouse for film freaks and film fans of all types. I'm your host, Brian Kyneton, joined by my fellow co-hosts and filmmakers, John and Elaine Woolscroft.
You know, I'm inviting the people that are kind of indifferent towards film this week. Not just film fans and freaks.
You know, all are
Really?
welcome. All are welcome this week.
All are welcome.
If you see a movie and you go, meh,
Yeah?
we're here for you.
Yeah,
Just this
so-
week. Just this
week. So we're fresh off of our live show that we had last
that was
week, which was
fun.
awesome. And this week we're going to be talking about the big kahuna in horror, Stephen King's It.
And if you guys are like me, you've been seeing people's posts of just saw it this weekend, and for half a second you've been like, saw what?
Oh, and it's,
'Cause you haven't
it's
seen
also
the
episode
Capitol.
72. I forgot to mention
Yeah,
that.
72.
Yeah, and guys, I think we gave you ample time here. I mean, you know, we had the live episode and everything. So, as always, spoilers are rotten.
Spoilers abound.
There will be. And we're also going to be talking not just about 2017 It. We're going to be talking also about the miniseries.
And I'll be talking about the book.
Yeah, because I haven't
Because you
read it yet. I just didn't read that.
Yeah.
Really quick, I feel like we glossed over the live episode. I would like to say a most heartfelt shout to Zeke's.
Seriously.
They took such good care of us. I mean, the endless bar of sweets and beverage, and their fall menu is so good.
Yeah. At the end of the day, they were doing us a favor, and then we got fed. So-
Well, then too, at the end of the night, they brought out this beautiful plate of this adorable little pot pie that was this wine and sausage happy, and this spicy pumpkin curry soup, and it's making me hungry talking
God,
about
it was
it.
so good.
And then they gave us each a bag of Night of the Living Blend, and it will knock you on your ass.
Yeah, so if you live in Pittsburgh or you're visiting, go to Zeke's. Great food, great coffee, great people.
Yeah,
Jump
man.
on in there.
People. And we'll be definitely doing more live broadcasts.
Yeah, easily.
I mean, it was fun.
It was super
and I'm not,
fun.
Even though I fell in my chair.
Oh,
Okay.
Okay, we're
Even
gonna
though
talk
that
about
happened.
it.
Of course. Oh,
Okay.
yeah. I kept it in.
Did you keep it in?
I mean, I cut out the part, but I did keep out the part where it said I just fell
Okay.
out of the chair. So, yeah.
It was the chair's fault. The chair.
It was the
stupid.
chair's fault. And here's the funny thing. So, Macabre Noir, friend of the show, works at Zeke's, and she had the chair on her deck at her house. I went over to her house the other day, and I just saw the chair. I'm like, why are you keeping the chair?
Sign it.
Yeah.
Sign it.
Yeah. Well, she said, "Oh, we're gonna try to get it fixed." I'm like, "There's no fixing that fucking
Yeah,
chair."
man. It almost killed you.
It did. And I mean, I knew something was going on because it just didn't feel sturdy.
Yeah, it's cool.
But yeah, it was a great time there. Aside from falling on my ass, but
If they're smart, they'll have you sign it, put it somewhere in the basement, just aside, and then when you're super famous someday, they're going to be like, yeah, put this on eBay for 20 grand, 30.
there you go. That's exactly what it's going to happen. But yeah, before we get to all the stuff with it, we do
What?
have a little bit of a
Excuse me.
It in. Keep
Yeah.
it in.
yeah, keep it in.
There's no keeping that in.
Keep it
we
in.
do have a little bit of a news bit, and I think I surprised you guys with this. So apparently, there's going to be a Terminator 6.
Dude,
Oh, no, what? Fuck my ass. Are you for real? This sucks.
Yeah, because why
Oh my
not have
God.
another stab at it? You know?
is this real?
You know, because when the horse is dead, why don't you put your dick in it too? Just
Well,
Hey,
it gets better though.
horses are warmer on the inside, John.
I just get an image of tauntauns.
I know. That's what I was
Yeah,
thinking about.
Yeah. Well, so it gets
tell me
even
more.
better.
Tell me
it gets
more.
even better. So
I wanna know.
James Cameron's involved in this.
Is he directing or just producing?
I
Well-
believe.
Producing. The old man's directing.
Here's the thing. According to Screen Rant, he had an interview with the Hollywood Reporter, and apparently he is co-directing with Tim Miller.
What?
So Tim Miller, if you remember, is the director of Deadpool.
So Tim Miller's going to do all the work, but they're going to use James Cameron's name to get people in the
Pretty much,
theater.
yeah.
Well, to give it credibility too.
Well,
you
he
know.
just released Terminator 2 in 3D, and I read an interview with him where he's like, oh yeah, we're looking at possibly a trilogy. So he's Ridley Scotting it.
He is.
You know,
and there's a bit of a quote from him too. Yeah. So I want to read this quote. He says that this is a continuation of the story from Terminator 1 and 2, and we're pretending the other films were a bad dream or an alternate timeline, which is permissible in our multiverse.
Must be nice.
What the fuck does multiverse
it gets
mean?
really better. This was really driven more by Tim than anybody, surprisingly, because I came in pretty agnostic about where we took it. The only thing I insisted on was that somehow revamp it and reinvent it for the 21st century. Are you fucking kidding me?
Wow. But no, the most important thing. You haven't said the most important thing.
I haven't said the most important thing. Linda Hamilton is coming back as Sarah
yeah,
Connor.
she is. That actually excites me. That's the only part about this news that doesn't make me want to have diarrhea.
Jacked like Terminator 2?
Oh, she has
Dude,
to be
she
jacked.
was so jacked in Terminator 2. She's awesome.
She looked like she was just like grabbing steaks and eating them.
I want to just grab steaks and eat
not
them.
even cooked. Just like went up to a cow, cut off a piece
Like
of
when
steak.
they throw it into the lion's pit?
Yeah,
You know?
she just was like, I gotta get jacked right now, just eating steaks left and right.
Do you know this about me? That's kind of how I like my steak.
Completely bloody.
Like passed over a match, if that. Like I like it super fuckity rare.
You like the blue steak.
Yes, I do. Yes, I like it blue. You are correct. That's what it's called.
Blue Steak is her pet name for me.
Yeah. and then you get the E. coli afterwards.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah.
Dude,
And E. coli is her safe word.
No, E. coli. John, you have revealed way more about us on this episode than I'm comfortable with.
If your safe word was E. coli, I'd be like, you're coming up with a new one.
No.
But
Our safe word is Harrison
so,
Ford.
you know what? I would love somebody to have the balls to do one of these, like, oh, these movies don't count, but with, like, something everyone loves. Like, I want somebody to be like, okay, this movie goes after New Hope. Empire never happened now. Just
Right.
do it. I dare anybody to do that. And just, I love how crappy these movie franchises get where they're like, you know what? We're just gonna fucking ignore these movies over here. Just these ones.
Well, just they don't exist.
We're going to select what we want. You mean with like the entire fucked up X-Men franchise where they pick and choose? Like, is that what you mean?
I'm
Talk about
sure-
multiverse.
Well, I'm sure they did this earlier, but the first memory I have is Bryan Singer's Superman Returns. And he was like, oh, 3 and 4 don't exist. It's like, okay. Well, Halloween H2O. And then 4, 5, and 6 aren't part of it anymore.
Yeah, for the new one, I wonder which ones they're going to erase for that, for the new Halloween.
4, 5, 6,
Probably
and 7.
And Rob Zombie.
And
Yeah.
H2O.
So it's 1 and 2 now. Because remember, H2O was right after only Halloween existed with H2O. Now it's going to be Halloween 1 and 2. And my head hurts.
See, here's the thing. I think this is cheating. I'm sorry.
yeah.
This is cheating, okay? The only person who was able to do this successfully was Sam Raimi. Okay? Sam Raimi did this with Evil Dead. He made the first Evil Dead, and then he was like, that was with no money. I'm going to get money, and I'm going to do Evil Dead 2, but it's basically going to just be the same movie as Evil Dead, only with more money.
Right.
Okay? And he did that at a time when no one else was doing it. So no one really cared. But these are big budget franchises. Like, this isn't someone made a little tiny movie over here and it got somewhat of notoriety and I'm going to get more money and do the same thing. This is like, hey, we've done Terminator a bunch more times. We had a TV series, which actually, I liked the Sarah Connor Chronicles.
Oh, I remember that. We were in college when that was out.
Same
That was like
here.
our first
Yeah.
apartment together.
Yeah. I actually really like Sarah Connor Chronicles. And they completely written over that as well. So this is cheating. You made shitty movies, live with it, either kill the franchise or continue off of that and make a better movie.
But there's so much money to be made and you don't have to work as hard this way.
Those endoskeletons are iconic. We need to put them on the big screen.
Oh my God, please
$1
tell me Robert Patrick's coming back.
No, I'm probably not.
Oh, dude, he's a little too fat to be the Liquid Terminator.
That was so
and
mean.
here's the thing too. He's the T-1000. How can he come back and not be young?
Yeah.
You know, he's gotten kind of grizzled. Okay.
Oh, maybe the retaining water. Skeleton.
Or it could,
The new model
or it
retains
could
water.
be, like what they did in the last Terminator, where they had to explain how Arnold Schwarzenegger
The tissue
oldest
age.
balls.
old.
Yeah.
They're like, yes, my tissue age is like human skin.
Yeah.
But A plus on the
that's-
Arnold. Like,
Is that
you
good?
went for
Yeah.
it. So wait, is Arnold going to be in this one though?
Oh, probably.
Okay, good. Because
On
I'm
the-
not
on the
in if he's not there.
exoskeleton.
They tried that one. They can't do that.
Yeah.
I'm not the governor anymore. I'll be in all your movies. It'll be great time.
I'll be in
Dude.
every big box office movie all time. Yeah.
Can he like do this? Can he do this and then go like be the president? Because at this point, like,
Wasn't born here.
Why not?
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
you know,
But yeah, Terminator 6.
And on that note,
that was awesome,
brilliant
you guys.
segue, guys.
We nailed it.
Brilliant segue. There is no fate but what we make for ourselves.
Yeah, remember like first episodes, John, where he had like a segment, like segue.
Yeah.
Hey,
he was the transition
the
king.
show is different now, okay? You know, now we're part of the Epicast Network, and we throw to them. So I don't just segue into the show anymore.
I don't know.
I'm a little sad. I miss it.
A couple weeks ago, you segued to the Epicast message.
Oh, challenge accepted. All right, next week.
Next week, it's on.
So here's a message from the Epicast Network.
Hey, yo, I'm Ed Bailey. I'm here with
Dave Bracey.
and we are the Drinking Partners Podcast on Epicast Network. Fucked it up. Make sure you check us out, man. We got the Comedy Fuel, which is really supposed to be beer fuel comedy podcast, but
Craft Fuel Beer Pot. Craft Beer Fuel Pot. Motherfucker,
right.
man. I'm gonna have to write that down.
What up? Craft Fuel
Hold on,
Beer
hold on.
Podcast.
Yeah, Craft Fuel.
Craft Brew Fuel Pot. Craft Beer Fuel Podcast. Okay. Craft Brew Fuel. Craft Beer Fuel Comedy. Those are not 4 words that you say normally. All right. Craft Brew. You knew that I was gonna fuck up. You knew. Craft Beer Fuel Comedy Podcast. All right, so Craft Beer Fuel Comedy Podcast on.
You can find us on epicastnetwork.com/partnerspod. You can find us at partnerspod on Facebook, Twitter, and IG. And you can find us on iTunes, Stitcher, and Libsyn under Drinking Partners.
Yo, if you ain't heard and if you don't know, Drinking Partners is the crew. Epicast is the family. Make sure you check us out, man.
And we're back. That was a message from our friends over the Epicast Network, specifically the Drinking Partners Podcast. Great group of guys over there. A lot of funny episodes they got.
Yeah. I mean, when you mix beer in, I feel like that's a good situation.
Beer and comedy.
Yeah. And
All
it's
mixed
better
into
to
one.
drink with people.
Yeah.
you know?
It's true.
Although drinking alone can be pretty fun.
I mean, it
That
depends.
is a cry for help.
It is.
It depends.
So this week's movie or series of movies is the perennial classic, at least now it's becoming a classic, Stephen King's It.
Yes.
Yeah.
So-
kind of the big... I think it actually took over The Exorcist for most box office.
I believe it. I
for
believe it.
horror.
Yeah. What do you guys think that is? Because it wasn't that the movie was great and got word of mouth. You know, I mean, it was all right. All this hype was before it came out. Like, remember in '89 Batman? There's the Batmania way before the movie even came out. All this was like it was the first couple weekends and opening night. Like people were starved for this movie, and I don't. Why are we ready for this?
Did we ever get a real definitive answer on what those clowns in the woods were about? And like, there were balloons out in the world. Like, I mean, do you remember all those reports where like it was like some creepy clown in the woods? I mean, there was a suggestion that was some kind of like grassroots marketing campaign.
I don't know specifically if that was the case.
Because either that or like some like
I think
children
that
almost
was,
were murdered.
I think that was just a series of people dressing up as clowns, kind of like what the hell was it? The Ice Bucket Challenge. Like people just kept doing.
People just did it.
I think so. Yeah, I don't.
That's awful. I mean, you could have been really like the police could have taken your shit out if they found you.
I don't think it was anything along the scale.
Usually clown makeup is white.
Yeah.
Oh, John, you went there. That's awful, John.
I don't think it was anything along the lines of, say, like The Dark Knight when it came out, how it did all that like interactive marketing stuff in real time.
And God, how that blew up in its face.
And it blew up in its face. But you also had that happen with Aqua Teen Hunger Force when they also did stuff with...
okay.
And they actually had something really blow up in their face because they had the bomb squad called on them
Well-
because of one of their interactive marketing strategies.
Well, it was Dark Knight Oh, it was Dark Knight Rises. That's right, where that horrible shooting took place. That's what I was thinking about.
No, but I'm talking like the actual marketing.
I don't think that was a marketing campaign.
Well, no. I just meant like
Damn
they
you,
had the
Christopher Nolan.
marketing, and then it blew up in their face because that horrible event happened in their movie. That's all I'm saying.
But for me, my opinion of it is that the trailer did more for this movie than I've seen in other horror films.
Well, too, I mean, like, I think this time of year is really on point as well, just because, I don't know, I call it spooky season. I know that makes me like 5, but I mean, it's like fall. Like, you want to see a horror movie when the leaves change. There's just something elemental about that, I think.
Yeah. Well, also, I think this is when people talk about, what is the most famous Stephen King story. And if you know Stephen King a lot, you may say The Stand, but if you're just an average fan, you say, oh, it's got to be It.
Or The Shining. Yeah, one of the two. And for better or worse, we only gotten a made-for-TV thing, and we all usually know how those turn out. They're usually not very good. So now you're getting, a big feature length in the movie theater, big budget behind it, movie based on his scariest novel, and from what I know, he's the master of horror, or at least that's how he's marketed. So I think that also could have driven a lot of people in, like, I have to see this. Is probably the scariest movie of all time. But I also think it goes back to the basics of horror film marketing, where your monster really is the key. Bill Skarsgard's Pennywise is terrifying. Okay?
Yeah, and they were smart about teasing that too.
They didn't just have him pop up. They kind of creeped him in. Where you saw his eyes here, you saw that smile, and I think like those sorts of things, got the audience to say, "Holy shit!" This isn't just like the other horror films that you've seen. Like the other horror film trailers I've seen from like Blumhouse and a couple other people. They're in.
You've seen the whole movie if you've seen. The
exactly. Yeah. And I mean, with this one, the trailer for it is the repeated message of "You'll float too, you'll float too," and it's just creepy. They really hit on the idea of atmospherics. They built up a creepy atmosphere for this film, and you can feel it in the trailer.
And Steven's float fetish.
Seriously,
it's just the season of the clown, I guess. Must be the season of the clown. Okay, now we're being sued. But they just must
parody.
Be yeah.
They can't sue us for that.
Clowns must be the new zombies, because if you've actually read the book, he doesn't appear in the clown form all that often. Well, right. There's a lot of times where he appears as other monsters and things like that, but the movie really capitalized on, okay, we need him to appear as a clown as much as possible. It was like when Dino De Laurentiis was behind Red Dragon, even though Hannibal Lecter is not in that book that much, they thought, well, we need to just shoehorn him into this movie everywhere we can, because it's the Hannibal Lecter show.
Right.
And so, he needs to take the clown form all the time. Even when in the book, the kids were attacked and he didn't just form back into a clown, at the end of that attack scene. They knew it was it. But, in the movie, it's like, okay, we got to sell that clown. That's what's going to put butts in seats.
Yeah.
And they weren't wrong. Yeah. I mean, they weren't wrong.
Yeah, it's true.
And guys, we've all seen this, and I feel like I'm on an island alone here, and I really want to get your take on it. I really felt his performance was laughable.
Really?
There were moments that I felt it was laughable.
Yeah.
I thought he was trying too hard in certain areas.
Yeah, I think sometimes when you have an unbridled actor, and you don't have a director that like tells them to pare it down, I kind of compare it to Jesse Eisenberg in Superman. Now, obviously, that
Batman v Superman.
Batman v Superman, Dawn of Shit.
What did I say?
Just Superman.
Oh, okay. Batman v Superman. Just
Dawn
kidding.
of Shit.
Dawn of Shit. And I want to get the full title.
You have to get the full title.
But I mean, it wasn't on the same level for me, I don't think. But, I think that's the problem when you have an actor that's just let free. Sometimes you just got to pull them back just a little bit. And, in my filmmaking work, I would always rather someone give too much, because you can always pull them back a little bit rather than trying to pry something out of somebody. But I think that's what it was, just letting someone get too free with it. And it just gets a little too over the top, because you have to walk that fine line with horror, because scary can get silly really fast.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, I see a lot of reviews and people talking about this in print and TV and internet, and everybody's just praising him back and forth. And I'm like, oh my God, am I just wrong?
No, I don't think you're wrong. I think the other part of this too is it also goes back to the fact that, you know, he's trying not to be Tim Curry.
Yeah.
And that is the danger when you're adapting something that's already been made and that has already been out there for so long. It's the same issue that, you know, Heath Ledger faced when he was trying to be the Joker. Don't be Jack Nicholson. Be something different. So where Heath Ledger hit the mark, I'm saying that Bill Skarsgard got pretty close. You know, he's not perfect. I don't think he's perfect. I think he was able to blend in well with the overall visual narrative that the filmmaker is trying to create, a very creepy, grounded in somewhat reality version of it. So I get that, but like I love the scene in the sewer when you first see him. Okay, I think that's actually done better than Tim Curry's version.
Well, that was the scene because obviously that's the first time he pops up on screen, and he's like, "I'm Pennywise, the dancing clown," and I'm like, "Oh no!"
Well, I mean, we are dealing with a younger actor.
Cut.
But we are dealing with a younger actor. You know, Skarsgård was born in 1990.
Yeah.
So he tackled this role at a younger age than, you know, say Heath Ledger was, you know, when he played the Joker. So I think that works against you a little bit as well. You know, not to say that he doesn't have experience, but, you know, he isn't quite at the same point in his career.
Yeah.
Well, see, Tim Curry is always between 30 and 60.
That's true.
That's his age.
Yeah, and I mean, and I'm not even necessarily comparing him to Tim Curry because, I mean, Tim Curry, when he did it, would have been much older, you know?
Yeah, and to give a little background here, obviously, you know, this was Stephen King wrote this at his, like, coked out, alcoholic, crazy, you know, peak. It's 1,100 pages. It came out in the late 80s, I believe. And it goes into a whole lot of detail. A lot of people said this was unfilmable, and in many ways it kind of is. Just, you know, all over the map in terms of continuity, all the, you know, details that you kind of need to know about Derry and the history of Derry that just don't translate well to film.
Yeah.
But, you know, so we've gotten two different takes on it now. We've gotten the TV miniseries, which went back and forth between the adults, and, you know, and the Losers Club, which is the kids. And now we got kind of a movie that's split into two. So we got the kids and we have the adults. And it's interesting, and I mean, this is kind of a broad thing to to paint right now, but I don't think the film is a success because I think what is successful about the book and to a degree the miniseries is watching what has happened to these people as a result of the ending to this film, which we'll get to, and just seeing the first half of it, just seeing maybe in future generations that watch them back to back, that might be better.
They have said. To that point, they have said that this is the first of two parts.
Dude, the second one already has a release date.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
2019.
The movie ends with to be continued, but I'm saying that like when you can actually watch them back to back, I just feel like I'm missing something because I don't get the second part, which is necessary to creating a whole narrative, and we just don't have that. With
I could see that.
I don't think that's a negative thing, though.
Yeah. No, I mean it can make you curious, but it kind of reminds me of like how Kill Bill was released with parts 1 and 2, and I mean you need the whole picture, and you can't really judge either part until you've seen the whole.
Especially because a lot of people, the one divisive point about that miniseries is that it goes downhill after that the part with the children,
right?
Like that is the one thing a lot of people are like, oh, well, because that when that miniseries got released on home video, it was sold in 2 tapes, and people were like, well, I forgot about tape 2, and I didn't really like tape 2 because that's where you get into the giant spider and all this other goofy shit. That honestly,
in fairness, he's the spider in the book.
Yeah, but honestly, it's not nearly as rich as the stuff that happened in the past.
Well, I don't know. I mean, just when you think about the elements of a narrative that really pull at you, I mean, talking about childhood is always like so visceral, right? You know, when you talk about what you were afraid of, especially as a kid, or if there was somebody that bullied you. And sometimes I think film really puts this magical veneer on those friendships that you have as a kid. And I think that the miniseries really shone there. And I think seeing those relationships translated, you know, now into the film, I think that's a strong suit as well.
Well, it's interesting that Stephen King has said, I kind of wanted to take all of the Universal monster movies I saw when I was a kid. Dracula, you know, Swamp, you know, not Swamp Man. That's, Creature from the Black Lagoon. Yeah. Frankenstein. And just put them all, Wolfman, and put them into one movie. So, you know, it really worked for the book and the miniseries to take place in the 1950s. But I did think it was interesting that they did the update, and it's the late 80s with the film. So now that when, you know, Pennywise comes to feed again when they're adults, we're right up to our time. You know?
Yeah, that is very cool, the way that the timing worked out. I mean, I think that's really neat.
I liked it. I thought it was, from the businessman side, a great play on like the series Stranger Things, because you're already pulling from the 80s. And
too, I mean, you want to talk about Stranger Things, you know, Finn Wolfhard was in this.
Yep.
He played Richie, and, you know, he's Mike on Stranger Things.
Yep.
That kid is a good actor.
Oh, yeah.
He is a real
Hell
good
of an
actor.
actor.
He is, and he's what, 13?
Yeah.
He's amazing, though.
Well, the Duffer Brothers were actually, they had talked about them directing the film. You know, it didn't end up working out, but they wanted to bring him on. And it was, you know, the new crew that was brought in liked him so much they kind of kept him on the project. But that's how he initially kind of got his foot in the door.
Oh, that's very cool. And it's funny, I was reading an interview, and apparently when Finn went back to film Stranger Things, he filmed it between seasons of Stranger Things. And when he came back to the Stranger Things set, apparently he had like a new affinity for the F-bomb that he hadn't had when he left.
I was going to say.
His movie like totally corrupted him. I thought that was so cute.
I mean, let's talk a little bit about the dynamics of the actors in between the miniseries and this film. Personally, I like the newer version better in terms of how the characters all interact with each other.
Really? I think there's something so organic about the miniseries. They just seem like kids.
Yeah, but at the same time, like maybe it's because of the fact that you're dealing with two different time periods. But like for me, one felt more like you're reading off of a script, and the other one felt more organic in how real kids of that age talk.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like when I was 13, I talked just like those kids.
Okay.
Okay.
I can see that.
F-bombs left and right. I still do to this day. So I mean,
we've been known to throw an
just
F-bomb
a
here or
few.
there. Just a
but,
few.
I mean,
I don't care for
the conversations they were having, the adventures they were going on, that all felt more genuine to me than the miniseries. And that might have also been just because it is a miniseries on TV in 1990. They can't get away with nearly as much as an R-rated film can.
Yeah,
Sure.
you're very limited in that sense. But,
And that's a big difference between both projects, I guess. You know, that's something that we should consider.
well, what's nice is that Bev actually got a character instead of just like a concerned-looking mop like she was in the original.
That's true. The Bev was a big upgrade.
And they were actually able to, and even though they were very subtle about it still, they were able to tackle a lot of the emotional, physical, and sexual abuse that Bev goes through with her father more than they could they could on TV.
Well, yeah, on TV they just showed her father as just abusive.
Yeah, just
but
hit
it's
her,
like, And honestly, I like the fact that they made the adult characters in these kids' lives almost as horrible as it itself. You know, like you've got Eddie's mom is completely overbearing, but she has a darker side to her.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're just like, it's not like she's out to just care for him. She's trying to literally hold him back.
She kind of looks like Mama from What's Eating Gilbert Grape,
Yes.
you know?
but she's just her malice towards him is trying to hold him back in growth.
She's like the ultimate smother.
Yeah, but it's not in a loving way though. You know what I mean? It's in a almost like I hate you, so I'm going to prevent you from growing up way.
Yeah.
Like that's what the vibe I was getting. And of course, Bev's dad is gross as all hell.
Yeah, I really hate seeing this kind of thing in movies for entertainment value when it's real to people. I don't know. I
You
wasn't
have no
crazy.
idea how intense it is in the book. Like, every week he checks her hymen to make sure it's still intact.
That is so fucked up. Like,
Jesus
for you to even
Christ.
say that, I just like my skin is crawling. That's so fucked up.
Yeah.
Stephen
and
King-
Stephen just like, he's like, yeah, this is going to be good.
Stephen
Yeah,
King, not a big fan of this.
Get me another beer. I'm on page 10,000.
People read 10,000 pages, right? Yeah, but I did appreciate the fact that they made all the adult characters in this film horrible people. Because the whole town is basically infected by it.
Yeah, and that's obviously, since with the miniseries we got both parts, they kind of lay out that people in Derry they forget, because when you're a kid you kind of see what's happening and you remember, but then you kind of forget, and that's how you can move on. And and the people in Derry ignore the strange and bizarre and move on. And there's a scene at the very beginning of the movie when Georgie's looking into the storm drain and he's being attacked, and a woman on her porch just walks back into the house.
Yeah, and we see a lot of that, I think, in other media. That's like a big theme in Buffy when all the crazy vampire stuff happens. People are just like, oh, it was a gas leak, or these people were on drugs, or, they always have like a weird explanation for the vampires. And like the people of Sunnydale are so ready to forget like instantly. And I think that that's interesting because you do kind of do that, I think, from childhood, especially, now I'm lucky that I didn't suffer any real trauma, but I mean, I don't really feel one way or another about anybody that bullied me when I was younger, and I didn't have it so bad. It was enough to just give me character. I don't know.
I feel a run you over with a car way.
Yeah, and I just don't give a shit, but it's funny because my mom, of all people, she knows like to the the detail of like what people like, what other girls did to bully me, and she still like holds a huge grudge. Like she'll even like people who are bystanders than the bullying and maybe didn't do anything, but like hung out
That's
while
also
the bullying happened.
A mom looking after
it's just
her
so
kid,
funny.
too.
Like to me, like my mom's like, I don't think she's a good person. I don't know what she's doing, and I'm like, Mom, I'm 32 now, right? Like it's cool. We're cool. This is
cool
really
now.
this is really awesome of you, but it's fine. But I think you forget over time.
Yeah. So the town of Derry, the idea is that whatever the clown actually is. And boy, I can't wait to tell you guys what the clown actually is.
I mean, he's not a giant spider?
Well, he kind of is. But,
Awkward.
Has, in Derry every 26 years for many, many, many years, feeds off of the people. And as long as he feeds, he can go back into hibernation for 26 years. So, Derry very much is a character, but, you're never going to get that in the film version, and they hint at it throughout the story. But should we kind of go into kind of the brief synopsis? It was kind of a longer film, a lot of details and everything.
I think a brief synopsis would be good.
Yeah. So, we get introduced in the same way we do in the miniseries and the same way in the book. We get introduced to Bill and Georgie, and Georgie is the first victim, not chronologically, historically, but, the first that you read in the book and in both versions. And this one, they're pretty graphic. Georgie's arm gets ripped off.
Loved it.
Gets jammed in that
Loved it.
screen. Yeah. And then, Bill starts to kind of sense that something strange is going on. He starts seeing things that the adults don't see. And then his friends kind of all fall into line the same way. There's Richie, beep, beep, Richie.
Beep, beep.
Yeah. Who's
Richie.
he's a loudmouth kind of kid. Basically says whatever comes to mind.
Richie's my hero.
Yeah.
He's my Patronus, actually.
There's Eddie Casper, who is not by choice a mama's boy. The mama kind of forces it. Sick all the time, very frail. You got Bev, who's the only girl in the Losers Club. She's actually probably the most, a little, I think Stephen King described her as smart, cynical, a hint of sadness.
I think that's inaccurate.
Cool.
And Brian, I'm not just looking to you because you're also Jewish, but what was the Jewish boy's name I'm drawing?
Stan.
Stan.
He knew it, though.
Yeah.
Not an accurate portrayal of my chosen people. Sorry.
Yeah. Stan is a little more empirical. And then
Stephen King, you don't know how to write Jews. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And then the last our who was actually Mike Hanlon,
Yeah.
Who is so important in the book and the miniseries, and in this movie, he's completely useless.
Yeah.
The whole movie could have worked without him.
Well, I mean, they introduced him right at the end in the new film. Like, he popped in the beginning for a few minutes, and then he disappeared. Oh, and then he popped in right at the end.
Yeah, I left one out. Kiss me, fat boy.
Oh yeah, that's what's his face?
You guys talking about Belch?
No.
Okay. I was gonna say
no. The overweight kid who in the miniseries turns into John Ritter.
Oh yeah.
But anyway, we'll come to it. But yeah, they basically gave him the historian role where he looks up all the things, and that was Mike Hanlon's job. If he doesn't have that, then there's no point to him being in the story. And it made sense because he was a very sheltered kid. He was a homeschool kid. You know, he might be more interested in the kind of thing where, you know, the other kids who hang out all the time, like, hey, let's go to the pool. Let's go into
Ben
the
is his
Ben.
name.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
Ben
it.
Hanscom.
Yep.
He may have kind of a eclectic interest, and looking up the history of dairy might be something he would do.
And New Kids on the Block.
Yeah. Yeah. There was a good use of humor in this one. But they all start to run afoul of it. You know, whatever their fear is. You know, for Eddie, it's a leper who is all like disease
all
looking,
fucked up.
Yeah, and obviously, you know, he's probably the kind of kid that washes his hands 6 times a day, whether he goes to the bathroom or not. But in the book, the leper tries to give him a hand job because Stephen King.
Yeah, Stephen King.
Because
really?
Stephen King. And then they eventually, you know, before I talk about that, here's what really bothers me about the character of it. There are no fucking rules about anything it does ever. Why doesn't it not kill sometimes? And why can it kill instantly others? Who does it pick? Why does it sometimes have to wait for fear to be a part of it? Aren't they always afraid?
That part I did not understand.
Yeah.
And I know what they were trying to do. They're trying to like give it a way that you can defeat it. Because if you've got a monster that literally has no rules whatsoever, how do you defeat something like that? So I know what they're trying to do. They're trying to it's a simplification technique. Okay, it's called it feeds on fear. It uses fear. So what if you aren't afraid, of it? What will it do? In my opinion, it'll still kill you because that's what a monster does. It doesn't wait for you to become afraid. Like that shit that I saw in it's the one thing I never liked about Sin City. When you've got the yellow bastard and he's like, he won't kill you unless you cry or wants your tears.
Yeah, he can't get hard.
He can't get hard unless you're that way. I never understood that. I'm like, that is the dumbest thing I ever heard of. Yeah. Okay. And it's the same thing with this. That was one part of it I did not like about this new film. And there's another thing too, and that's mostly the CGI, but I'm going to get to that later.
But you see it in the miniseries too, where, he knows that they're there to kill him, but all he does is wave at them and hold a balloon and say, "You'll float." It's like, what is he waiting for? And then you hear, other kids were killed. Why did it kill them and not our heroes? Like, there's nothing ever laid out about the rules and regulations of it. Because in the movie, when they go into the sewer, because he thinks, okay, Bill thinks that's where Georgie's going to be, because he's kind of built a model in his basement and said, okay, that if Georgie went into the drain and no one ever found his body, he's got to be into the sewer, and we know a way in there. So they're going in there and looking for him, and one of the bullies follows him in there, and he gets stuck at a grate, and here comes it and attacks him instantly. And I'm sure the guy was a little bit afraid because what the hell is somebody standing behind me, and he's a clown, but he's not terrified. He's probably more befuddled. Yeah. And it kills him instantly. And there's a scene later in the movie where all the kids are in this haunted house and he's taking forever to kill any of them. Why don't you just kill them instantly like you did Belch or whatever in the fucking sewer? I don't understand there's no rules.
For someone who loves mayhem as much as you do, John, you seem bothered when there's a lack of logistics in a film.
Well, I can't get into it. I can't.
This was too logistics.
Yeah.
There's too many rules. Like, I imagine that, Pennywise just comes out with a little mini rule book and says, okay, are you scared? Yes? No? Okay.
It's like the paperwork you get at the doctor's office, all the check boxes.
Okay, are you under the age of 8? Not really. Okay.
Do you like floating?
Yeah. Do you like floating? Oh, you do? Okay. Yeah. Well, you'll float down here. Now I can kill you. Like, that sort of shit it gets in the way of this. I think you can make a monster not have rules and still be able to defeat them. That just requires, I don't know, storytelling techniques.
Yeah.
You know?
It just needs somebody, like some old man, to come in and be like, I'm the only old person in this town that knows that clown, and here's how you defeat him. Most movies have that.
Well, that's an expositional type.
Yeah, an exposition character like that can fill it in, because our characters are perfectly custom built for, I don't know what's happening. We need somebody who's going to come in and explain it to us, i.e. the audience, on all the ins and outs of.
And I mean, they try to make our protagonists kind of experience more of it, like actually get injured by him, because you've got Stan's character who gets his face swallowed by it. Like, his whole face is fucked up. Because it's got Pennywise has his mouth all over him. So, I mean, you've got things like that, but again, it all goes down to like, why are you following rules? You're not supposed to have rules. Can I talk about CGI?
Oh my God, please.
Yes.
Please talk about
God.
CGI.
What the fuck?
What seems to be the problem, Brian?
The fuck?
Tell me everything.
Okay. The CGI in this movie was terrible. I tried to get behind it. I'm like, all right, I know you're going to throw some CGI in this, but why did you have to CGI so much shit? Like, they CGI'd Pennywise, like, transforming. Like, there's that scene where he's kind of, like, bent all over the place, and they made him CGI'd all that shit. They CGI'd the giant version of him during the slideshow scene.
Oh, Jesus.
It just felt so ridiculous. You're telling me you couldn't build a puppet?
Or two, I mean, like, there's contortionists under all that makeup. Who's going to know the difference?
I'm just saying, you've got a fucking scary monster, okay? You've done a hell of a job with the makeup on this fucking scary monster. You're telling me that there is no money at all to make a fucking prosthetic, to make a puppet? You're telling me you can't do that? That's not possible? I can't stand these horror movies, and it happens more and more with these modern horror films, where they lost the idea of using anything practical. It's like, yeah, you use some practical sets. Okay, that's great, but did you really need to make his mouth all CGI?
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that point, because I think, if a shot would be otherwise impossible or possibly too dangerous, because, you see a lot of things about like stuntmen still being killed, like if you want to do that stuff CGI, I think that's a smart move.
Yeah.
But I'm with you, Brian. I'm practical effects all the way. I think at the end of the day, even if it doesn't look quite right, it still looks better than CGI.
The thing, though, is that we're at a time where it's possible to do both.
Sure.
Yes, and I'm team 50-50.
You mesh
What
the
makes
best
sense?
parts of practical with the best parts of CGI. So I don't think you necessarily have to jump to, we have to CGI his whole face pulling up into teeth. Like, I hated that. It just felt cheap to me. Yeah. After you've got this terror built up with a practical person there, okay? You jump to, let's just throw some CGI teeth in there. But like, that part I can't stand. It just kills it.
Yeah.
Well, you look at, and it's 24 years old now, but you look at Jurassic Park, and it's a perfect combination of puppetry, CGI, robotics, and a little bit of stop motion. Mm-hmm. It's sad that we have to go back 24 years, but that movie had the best blend of all different ways you can go.
I'm sorry, but it holds up, I think.
It does. It absolutely does. And then you also have another movie that does a good mix is The Mist.
Oh, yeah.
The Mist is using practical and it's using CGI.
Another Stevie King.
That's a good example, dude.
But I mean, that part I can't stand about this film. I understand why they did it, but at the same time, you're telling me you don't have the money to do a fucking puppet, to do anything like that.
It's faster.
Yeah, I know it's faster,
Cheaper.
but there are people like me. Like, if I'm in the audience, I'm watching this, I know what they did. They're like, oh, well, we'll just throw some quick cuts and some sound underneath it. That'll still get people scared, even though it looks like crap. You know?
Yeah.
But it's just, that's what separates great from good.
Yeah.
This was good. I'm not saying it's great. I'm not going to be the one who says, oh, well, it's the best horror film of all time. Fuck you, it's not. Okay?
Yeah.
It's a good horror film. It's not bad. I've seen much worse. But is it great? No. And that's one of the reasons why.
Well, you know, and it's funny you should mention that scene where they're in Bill's garage, the leader of the losers, and, you know, they're looking at slides of, you know, Derry and all kinds of things, trying to piece it together, like what's been going on in Derry all these years. And there's a scene where the slides start going super fast. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
That was really
you know.
creepy.
Yeah.
That was great.
And just let the thing fall over and leave it there. Like, you know, and then they turn the lights and the projector's still flickering. No, instead, they have him come out of the screen 19 feet tall. And, you know, the lights going in and out. And he's chasing after like he's a dog and they're ants. And it's just, it's almost laughable.
Or
like, less
here's
is more, guys.
Here's what you do too. This has been done in horror films since, you know, Nosferatu. Maybe it all goes black and you see it, Bill Skarsgard in makeup behind him for a minute, for like a second.
Yeah.
And disappears.
That'd be creepy.
That'd be creepy enough. That's all you
Real
need.
creepy.
Well, it's a matter of building scary imagery that you remember independent of each other and not for the sake of telling the story. And that, you know, and that kind of scares are momentary, but they're forgettable. The fear you remember is when you're vested in the story and the characters,
Of course.
and the scenario and the tone and everything. That is actually terrifying. And that's what will stick with you. You might you think about it before you fall asleep that night, but it's not going to stick with you. You know,
Well,
the image, those
that's-
kind of images.
That's the one
Exactly.
thing where, I mean, it's not one of my favorite horror movies, but it is, you know, a landmark horror film, The Exorcist. You know, The Exorcist, that the images that Friedkin crafted are terrifying. And
Especially
they stick
too.
with you.
Especially too, I mean, you got to think about when the time in which it came out, you know, because when we were even teenagers, it was, you know, so
Terrifying.
old that it was no big deal. But when it first came out, I mean, my mom said that like she and her brother, like my uncle, they couldn't sleep for like a week. I mean, she said that it was fucking scary, you know? So at the time, I mean, those images stuck with them too, you know?
But the film is riddled with them. There's a scene later where Bill thinks he sees Georgie and he follows him down into the basement.
Oh.
You know, and it's the trailer shot, like, you'll float too. And the clown just grabs him and like just rakes Georgie down, like snapping his spine, and like he falls down into the water. It's just one of those, ooh, that was creepy and unnatural looking, but unnecessary.
It's unnecessary. You didn't even need to have Pennywise in that scene.
No.
Like, you literally could have just had, you know, Georgie there, and he disappears, or, you know, he's right behind him, or some shit like that. And maybe you got like he turns into a corpse or some shit like that. Like, that's what I'm saying is they had it right part of the time,
Yeah.
and then right as they're like to like, you know, make a home run with this movie, they did that shit. You know, they did the normal modern horror movie tropes that I can't stand. Now, I will say that this movie did not have nearly as many jump scares, in my opinion, as most modern horror films do.
There were some.
There were some, but if you imagine, like, most modern horror films we see, so like this would be like, you know, all your Blumhouse movies, they seem to all have the loud noise and scary monster or some shit, or, you know, this one didn't really have the loud noise. It did have that time where, like, you know, you wouldn't hear anything and then you'd see it, but it wasn't the normal loud noise. You're more just startled than anything. I will say that it didn't have nearly as many, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They did follow a lot of tropes and conventions, you know, and but I think we've gotten to the point where the movie spends most of its third act, and that's in a spooky haunted house that you only see on a back lot of a movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll be honest with you, I've saw this quite recently. I can't even remember the fuck they're going in there.
They're going in there because
Thank God for Brian.
Okay. They're going in there because what's his face? Ben says, because he's the historian of the group now,
Yeah.
that all of the shit like all the sewers go to the well house.
Yes.
And no one knows where
It's
the
the
well
well
house
house.
is. That is where the well house is at. So that's why. Now, I will say that I don't like the fact that, unlike the miniseries, which does go into a lot of the history of Derry, this doesn't. It doesn't really touch on the history side.
But, and just to kind of go back real quick before we get to the whole haunted house thing, because that's going to be a big part of this. Do you ever think how stupid it is and how bizarre his behavior is? Essentially, we're prey to him. And he spends the whole time mocking us, tearing us down, breaking our spirit. Could you imagine if you brought a chicken into your house and you put him in a room and you spend 3 weeks scaring the fuck out of that chicken, mocking the chicken, kicking the chicken around, and just making it eat its own poop. And then after like 4 or 5 weeks, you kill him and cook the chicken.
Oh, John, I can tell you really belittled this chicken. It tastes so good.
That's what he's doing.
I can taste this chicken's fear.
You really put the time in, John. Oh, this is the best chicken I've ever had.
Like, he's just
fear meat.
He's
yummy.
so petty and vain and cruel. Like, to what end? But yeah, so we get to the haunted house. Lots of imagery, scary imagery riddled throughout the house. Some people are fighting the imagery, some are fighting it. For some reason, he doesn't just kill them.
No, he lets them live.
Yeah, he's confronting.
He's separating the group, basically.
He's confronting one of the kids, and then he's like right in their face, and then we go to another group of kids, and it's in real time. And so we're with these kids for about 4 or 5 minutes. We come back, and it's still like saying, I need you to be afraid. Float. And it's like, why hasn't he just fucking killed him yet? And
this really makes you angry that they haven't been
John
killed.
gets worked up, okay?
It's like, he can't kill him once they're afraid. I'm a human being. I could kill him. I think a all-powerful space clown could kill them.
I think that's the most terrifying thing you've said on the show.
I could kill them. But,
yeah.
And they all get out. And then,
then they all separate because,
third act.
Eddie's mom comes, you can't be friends with them anymore.
In the best tracksuit I've ever seen. Lady, did you love the pink tracksuit?
I did. It was so good.
But, and then of all characters, the strongest, most interesting, and basically, in my opinion, the true leader of the group just gets kidnapped because she's a woman? Yeah,
Didn't love that.
Yeah, because Bev confronts her dad, smashes his
Kills
face
him.
with the back of the toilet. Yeah.
Kills him.
And then she goes to leave, and then there's it. And I wanted to yell in the theater, kill her now. You got her. You fucking got her.
You win.
I don't even know why. If you could just appear whenever you want, why don't you just fucking kill him whenever? But anyways, he takes her.
So upset.
He takes her into the sewers
Where she floats.
Yeah. And holding her hostage. And they all come to save her. And this is where we see all these floating bodies. And I thought he fucking ate them.
No.
No, he just makes them float.
He just turns them into a floating Christmas tree.
So how does he
in
need
the sewer
them
with the
to live?
turds?
So how does he need them to live?
Maybe he eats their souls.
He eats their souls.
But there's only like 20 people down there. He's been doing this for like a few hundred years.
Yeah.
Was it supposed to be everyone from all of his times?
I would think.
Yeah.
The movie never says.
See, that's a rule that's not in the rule book.
Yeah.
But like bodies decompose though, so I feel like it's only from this like jaunt.
No, I think
this
that's,
run through the drive-through.
No, I think that's a lot of. I think that's his victims.
Yes. So
all of them.
He shows Bevy his deadlights. What he really is, and the thing is, he's supposed to be so terrifying that you never are able to like come back from it. And thankfully,
she comes back.
The power of Dick brings her back.
Yeah.
And we got very much an Edward and Jacob thing here.
Oh, yeah.
Because she thinks Bill wrote the poem, but it was actually
was Ben.
Ben. And so she thinks Bill wrote it, but then Ben comes in and kisses her, and January embers, your hair's winter fire, January embers, my heart burns there too. And she realizes it was him that wrote
And
the
she still
poem.
ends up with Ben.
Yeah, because they want to do
Bill.
Yeah, so they're setting up, Edward Jacob. And I guarantee the casting for the adults, both those guys are going to be like super hot looking dudes. So the girls can be like,
I don't know
which one.
I don't know that there's a huge history of like shipping on horror movies.
Well, they're trying to get it with this
trying
one
to.
because even though that somehow even though she saw the greatest, most terrifying thing in the history of time, a little bit of penis, and she's okay again.
Yeah, I've never liked that element of the story. I understand that it goes back to the book, and it's a lot more aggressive in the book.
It doesn't at all. Bev does not get kidnapped. She does not.
I just mean like the power of dick. Like I usually don't agree with Stephen King's views on the power of dick.
You don't agree with Stephen King's Power of Dick?
Just his views on the power of dick.
Okay, yes.
But yeah, so they've basically discovered that they can kill him Freddy Krueger style.
Right. They Krueger it.
Yeah, they're not
Krueger
they're not afraid anymore, and they just start fucking him up because he has one of them. I can't remember. Was it was Bill, wasn't it, that he was holding? And he said, "Look, if you guys just leave
let me
with my
eat 'em.
meal, I'll just go away, and you guys can move out of town. You won't have
And
to
then
worry
you
about
could
me."
die, and like old age.
Yeah,
but let me eat him.
It was Richie who just grabs the bat and is like, "Oh fuck. Well, I guess
Yeah.
we're killing this son bitch."
Yeah.
And it just, a very aggressive, violent scene of these little kids just beating up
But
a
like
clown.
the magic of friendship or whatever.
Here's the thing, though: no blood.
No blood. No, well.
I
yeah.
wondered if that would bug you.
That bothered me.
Well, what does he? He doesn't have blood.
I don't give a shit.
Make it up.
I don't give a shit. You know why? Because this is a fucking R-rated horror movie, and you're telling me, oh yeah, it doesn't have any blood. Well, maybe when you don't fear it, it's suddenly kind of like Freddy Krueger has blood.
Yeah, there's like no rules, right?
There's no rules, right?
Well, no, there's not. I did like seeing his spider legs come out for a second. And the thing is, he's not in the book.
His
He's
CGI
not,
spider legs.
yes,
Yeah,
the CGI. He's not a spider. He's a creature that looks like a spider. Because I guess maybe Stephen King's afraid of it. It's like when you read the description, it's like, that's basically a spider. And that's why in the miniseries, it is a spider.
I see.
But it's not supposed to be.
Okay.
His form is not an earthling spider.
Right.
I think they should avoid all spider references to this thing because it's dumb.
But, they chase him back down the well. He's kind of dead, but kind of not. And they're like, oh, well, that was fun. We're all just going to go.
Yeah, and they didn't do that whole this in the miniseries. Yeah. They use the silver that's melted down and they slingshot it into his head.
It's battery acid slime.
Yeah.
But and just like in the ending, just like through the whole movie, they kind of brush off the most horrifying things that could ever happen ever. Like after they get out of the haunted house, I mean, most disturbing shit you could ever see in your real life if this actually happened to you, and they're just kind of like, oh man, I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to chase clowns anymore.
But hey, let's take a blood oath that we will when it comes back.
I mean, in the 80s, nonetheless. I mean, I think they're all a little young for
you think the PSAs might have told them maybe you shouldn't be swapping blood,
Why
guys.
are you guys the worst?
Because we are. Now, you are omitting the one thing that is in the book that was not in the miniseries or
Are you guys
the
ready?
movie. And I think you got to end on this one.
All right. Yeah. So Stephen King is a disturbing, despicable human being.
And why is that, John?
After, in the book, they've defeated the clown as children. They can't get out of the sewer, and they don't know why. It's kind of like, what was a Blair Witch Project? Remember, they couldn't get out of the woods because the Blair Witch kept changing it, and they couldn't get out of there. And Bev says, you know what? I think we can't get out of here because we're children. And my only solution to that is to fuck 6 dudes. Now, remind, these kids are 11 years old in the book.
I know.
So they made them a little bit older from the movie, but they're 11 years old. And she tells all of them this. And they're 11-year-old boys, so they kind of go, oh, okay.
Okay.
And so on a dirty sewer floor, Ben basically just lies spread eagle. And the first one is Ben, who...
Big shocker there.
Yeah. In the book, Stephen
Big shocker
King
that it's Ben.
describes him as having an enormous penis.
Okay,
And-
so I'm just going to need you to not talk about what Stephen King says about the penises because they're 11-year-olds. I'm going to need a kibosh
He's very
on that.
descriptive of the sex, too, because he writes, and this is my favorite Stephen King written prose ever.
Brace yourselves, everyone.
Bev derived no pleasure. Of course she didn't. She's 11 years old. This is her first.
Yeah.
Okay, this actually like really soured me on the movie because it's not the movie's fault because it is taken from the book, but like let's wrap this up.
It's actually not a gangbang. It's a train because there are 6 men that ejaculate inside of her.
Let's wrap this up, John.
I'm just saying what's in
He's
this
saying
book.
what's
I
in
know,
the
but can we
book.
please not talk
right.
about ejaculate on our podcast? Like,
Wait a minute.
God damn it.
I like to think that we talk about ejaculate all the time on the podcast.
Yeah, that's very important.
We do.
That's our brand.
Fluids are covered. Okay, guys. Anyway,
But yeah,
ramp
so
it up.
guess what? If you haven't seen it, that didn't make the movie.
Yeah.
I wanted to have
wonder
the balls
why
to
it
put
didn't
that in
make the
there.
movie.
Yeah. Well, I don't know why it made the book. I mean, I know he was coked out of his skull.
Yeah.
But he spends 60 pages describing underage sex.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, that's why it's not in the movie because it's disgusting.
I guess the idea behind it is that you're seeing the transit, at least in Stephen King's fucked up head, that you're seeing the transition between childhood and adulthood. And that's generally what he's saying. He's saying
Just
that
in the most disgusting
becoming
way
sexually
possible.
active is really the dividing line between you're a kid and you're an adult.
which is
Poor Bev
which
had
is
to crawl into adulthood then.
which is so patently false because I
Yeah.
mean, that doesn't necessarily mean that you'll continue to do that. And
Right.
and if it's not right for you, I mean, some people do tend to lose their virginity really young, but like it doesn't necessarily mean that.
It's a fucked up way,
It is.
honestly. And it makes zero sense in my opinion. And I'm glad they didn't put it in because like I'm a fan of not pulling punches in horror, but honestly, that punch doesn't need to be thrown.
Yeah, but I mean too, knowing that it's in the book makes me like the movie less.
Well, even if he had just been subtle about it and like Bev convinced them that they all needed to make love in order to become adults and get out of the sewer. End of chapter. Don't go into 45 more pages of graphic children sex.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. We don't
Done
need
with
that.
children's sex.
Well, do you guys want me to completely ruin it and tell you what it is?
No. Let's save it for the next episode.
Oh, well, no, we're never coming. Well,
We're not coming back to
all
this.
right. So,
Just make it quick.
all right. It is an intergalactic space spider. Not exactly a spider, but similar to it, who crash lands on Earth, happens to land in Derry. And that is because he landed there is where he has to feed. And his arch nemesis is a space turtle who carries a universe on his back.
See, I wanted to wait for the sequel for you to tell us this, but okay.
It's not going to be in this.
It's
video.
not going to be in the sequel.
Yeah, and the thing is, Bill actually meets the space turtle who helps them figure out how to kill it because the space turtle is supposed to be everything good, and then the spider is everything bad, and it's just like, wow, you really went off the deep end here.
Seriously.
So many drugs.
Yeah.
Seriously. Well, I think we've talked it to death.
And we can't
Talk
get
what to death.
You can't change. I mean, you can't go up from Galactic Spider.
No, you can't.
So let's just pros and con it and then call it a day. I would say the pros are that the kids all seemed unique. They had an actual natural bond. And when you do with kid actors, it could be real bad, but they were all really good.
Yeah, I thought the acting was strong with the
Acting
kids,
was good.
especially.
I thought the pacing was fairly decent. I'd say the cons are there are no rules
Yeah.
for it.
Which is just a narrative failure.
Yeah, a lot of just horror conventions.
CGI.
And
Fucking CGI.
Brian's so mad, guys.
And I, once again, I might be alone here, but I thought Skarsgård was a little bit goofy.
I thought he did.
He
the
was hit or
best-
miss.
He did the best job, given that he tried really hard not to be Tim Curry.
Yeah.
So-
I'd like to see him in the next one.
Yeah.
Give him
Yeah.
some time to grow as an actor.
So awesome. Well, as I cough, Lane, where can they find you at on the Twitters?
You can find me on Twitter at LA_Cruft.
John.
You can find me at Bev Gangbang. No, that's
Vomit.
at the at the Unreal J Wolves.
And you can find me at Brian Content. I also run the Psycho Show Twitter page. You can be sure to like us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Google+, at Psycho Show. You can also find us on the Epicast Network at epicastnetwork.com. If you have a favorite movie or question you want to throw away, you want to talk a little bit about it with us, you can contact us at cinemapsychoshow.com. And make sure to subscribe to us on iTunes. Send us a rate, send us a review. We love getting those. And catch a new episode available every Sunday.
Bev derived, no pleasure.
Oh my God.